So one of the most important concepts in ChatGPT or other large language models like ChatGPT, Pod, and others is that these are mainly used or should be used as the name suggests, for artificial intelligence, for intelligence. That's what they're really good at. They're not really great for databases, for example. I mean, if you're looking to build a database or a list of information from the web, you're probably better off using a thing like Google, for instance, because that's a more effectively used in knowledge base, for example. But tools like ChatGPT are really designed for intelligence, to find intelligence within content. And today I'm just going to showcase some examples of how to use ChatGPT for intelligence purposes. So taking information which you provide or use from the internet and then working on that. That's the bit I feel is the most valuable and the most useful application of ChatGPT across the web. This also applies, as I mentioned, to Anthropic and Bard and other large language models, whether you use them as a tool or you find them open source on, say, Hugging Face and bring them over here. Doesn't really matter. It's all about using them the right way. So within the ChatGPT or OpenAI, as you can see, there are two models available now as in July 2023, and there'll be more coming up. There'll be changes added to it as well. I just want to say it's definitely worth upgrading to the paid version, which is the ChatGPT 4, because it's 10 times better at analysis than 3.5. So the value add is very clear and can really create extreme opportunities for yourself in the understanding different concepts, analyzing data, or just finding information which might be useful for you. Right. So how should we really use ChatGPT or other tools like ChatGPT, generative uh, tools, or large language models? I want to kind of first of all mention that it's really important to figure out what works for ourselves. And I've realized that over the years that, well, what works for me is simplicity. I like to keep things simple. I like things scannable, so I can quickly look at stuff and make a judgment. So in this example, I'm gonna use a important concept I use before I go to any sales meeting, which is to analyze a person I'm gonna meet's profile, LinkedIn profile. And what I'm gonna showcase right now is how I do that and how I go about this whole process. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to a profile. This time I'm going to just use my profile. It's easier. And I'll just go to the profile, the normal LinkedIn profile, for example. And what I'll do is I will just copy and then paste it in ChatGPT 4. Um, so I'm just, typically what we'll do is we'll say analyze uh, this LinkedIn profile. You'll see that it will not do a great job at this, and then we'll showcase what we can do differently. So I just copy paste the entire profile. As you can see, it's very long. It can't all fit in. So what I do is a tool called ChatGPT Splitter, which takes the prompt, the entire content I want to analyze, and splits it up into things. You can also add the prompt here as well. So for example, I can say, act like a document or holder, but typically I don't use it that way. I just leave that empty. I click on process, and then break down the entire LinkedIn profile to copy paste it into smaller bits. So all I can do now is go go here, copy it, go to my previous version, paste it. That's not what I want to do. It will save and submit. That's what I wanted to actually do. So I'll save and submit that, and then I'll just copy the next element to it. So it's done copying the first one. I'll copy the second one. As you can see, what this really doing for us is copying, you breaking it into small bits. And as you copy and paste them, they turn green. So you know what you have copied and what you haven't copied. Now you can go to done the second one. I'll copy the third one. Similarly, I'll copy the fourth one, fifth one. Then that's all done for us. So there you go. Fourth one. Yeah. And then the fifth. As you can see, it's added all the bits. I've added the five chunks into it. No, I can just put a prompt in and say, analyze this LinkedIn profile. And this is the bit which I think is super important. When analyzing different elements, I like it to be, as mentioned, keep it simple, scannable. And for that, what I do is I say, let's broad LinkedIn profile and present it as in a tabular or table-like format. What that does is it makes it easy to scan through the information very quickly. And what I like to also say to it is to make sure it point out interesting information about the person in a column. Provide the quote from the LinkedIn in profile as as a separate column, and finally provide a percentage of how interesting this is. Also include contrarian content from the LinkedIn user. So what we've done over here, we've done a couple of things. Well, first of all, what we've done is we've actually got in it all in table format. That's one. Number two, we have asked it to really focus on um, quoting stuff from LinkedIn profile so we can really understand what is the person has created or put on their LinkedIn profile is different. And then for a percentage of how interesting that is, that really allows you to figure out what should you focus on. You also ask to sort that thing as well. So you can sort it by most interesting content on top and the least interesting at the bottom. So now um, you can see from here that you found what the person does. That's 85% important. Um, highly endorsed skills. It says over here that digital marketing is the most endorsed skill, which is really important. So you can really understand what the person really does. You're looking at this person, and this obviously in this case is me. You won't able to say that my biggest skill is digital marketing. I mean, it's content marketing here. You would think it's content marketing, but actually it's digital, and actually that's true. I'm more focused on digital marketing. That's what my background is. Um, also, you can ask it to summarize. So another thing which is interesting is that like I can speak elementary Arabic, Hindi. I'm bilingual, but actually trilingual. Um, and I worked with e-commerce projects before. Um, talks about great vision and experience in developing structures, product and structuring products solutions. So I used to be a product manager in my past. So that's what's really interesting. I think what's interesting here is that it's looked at the most contrarian information, and it's looking through a LinkedIn profile, which is hard to kind of navigate through and understand all the different bits because there's so much information there. It's broken it down into the most simplest bits which I can read. I can also change it to say um, recreate a table from the LinkedIn profile to focus on what I should know about the LinkedIn profile before going into a meeting with them. provide a separate column to rank the most important information uh, and provide a percentage of how interesting this is. Also sort this by percentage of interest, the most interesting bit to be on top. So now what it will do is it will help me create and prepare for a meeting with this person. So if I just do that, it'll build me a table and it will create the most interesting parts there and analyze it. Again, super important and super helpful if you're looking to go into meeting this person. But it's all about understanding how to create this. And this is important for concepts, which is make it scannable and easy. You can actually get one of your teammates to create this table for you and just send it before a meeting. Or you can actually build a program to use and call this stuff before you actually meet somebody in person. So here we go. Um, all the information you might need is now available in a book. So you can mention that this person has written a book, for example, has multiple business awards. So all this information um, is super important to understand about this person and really helps you to understand. So I'll go a step further and I'll show something else as well. So another thing we can do is to really understand what they're really interested in recently. You can go to the see all. So if you go to the activity section, and this is the activity section, you copy paste that, for example, you'll really understand what are they interested in right now. That's a very important skill to have to say, well, I know what your profile is, I know what you do for a living, but let me see what you really care about. And that's the section which we're going to look at now. So it's like basically we copy this and say analyze the LinkedIn activity to figure out what this person is really interested in. So again, provide the information as a table, provide percentage of what's really interesting. You also put over here, for example, what's really contrarian, because something which is very contrarian also is very so I'll put that instead. What's contrarian? This is a very interesting thing to figure out what's unusual about this person compared to everybody else. And sort the table based on most contrarian to least. And that way you got the table there. So I'll just copy paste this information now. If it's too long, you have to just ChatGPT split the whole thing up. So we'll just look at that now and see if we can get the answer. All right, it's regenerating that constant. Here we go. So yeah, there's a recent activity. Now I can also ask to summarize this as well. Analysis. Here we go. There's the analysis. There we go. So diversity and inclusivity is a big part of it. Now, in this case, you see it's given me this table in this format. Sometimes happens that it will give a different format. It will summarize it separately because they're probably more than uh, 3 columns, and that's too much too difficult to fit all that stuff in. So what you can do is you can take some things out, and they will take, say, for example, take rank out. You can then put all the information next to it. So it's about learning how to prompt this properly. And that's actually called prompt engineering, to really know how to prompt uh, tools like ChatGPT better. All right, so this is kind of given me about diversity and inclusivity. That's a big part for me, as I understand. Um, so yeah, obviously about content creation. That's clear and that's true. Um, so yeah, talked about boost SEO rankings, for example. Yeah, all these things you see here, they all make a lot of sense. Again, if you just read through these, for example, that in itself will tell you what really is different um, about my profile, what I really care about. So very quickly, it tells us where is the opportunity within talking to this person and getting some more help, or when they have a sales call with them, want to talk about, resonate with them better, and helps you create better communication with these people. All right. The next thing I want to talk about is how to analyze large data. Again, very similar to doing operations on different sort of analysis on LinkedIn profiles, YouTube videos, you name it. But for example, if the mission was to go and analyze the annual report of, say, Microsoft, I mean, this tends to be a big document. So I've got that document open right now. It's a large document, and it's trying to figure out where where's the opportunity, what the company is doing, and really figuring out uh, about the company. Now, going through this data, this is a summary of the annual report, and still it's huge. So what we can do is we can go to copy paste this thing, put it into ChatGPT Splitter, and process it, and then put the information into ChatGPT to get that data down. You can see this is a huge document, so a lot of content put in there. So we're gonna now go ahead and copy paste all the information into ChatGPT, and then we'll ask it for analysis. So I'll quickly go and copy all this information across. So what I'm doing now is I'm just copying each bit one by one and then pasting it. I just copy the first element, put that into ChatGPT. Now I'll go ahead and do the next bit, and that way I'll just keep doing it till the time all the information is already in. So now I've copied all the 36 bits inside ChatGPT, and now I can go and ask it for different questions basically. So for example, I can ask it in a tabular form, summarize the most important strategies for 2023 and beyond by Microsoft. Order them in most to least important strategy. So we know that the most important bit is on top, and that will just help us create now a table of the strategy. So now I've got the information in here. It's a very quick way for me to then um, but the document doesn't include everything. It says that the document doesn't include a clear ranking strategy, but it just still kind of gives us uh, their description of it. And you can make this table even better by saying, by ranking percentage, how important the strategy is. So just kind of go back, and I can just say here, for example, add a column to rank to include a percentage of how important the strategy is. So now we get a number value, so you can see how important the strategy might be. And it's all listed out for you. That kind of makes your life much easier to understand, well, how important is one strategy versus the other strategy. So yeah, sometimes it doesn't give the format we require, so you can just regenerate it again. Um, okay. So how to change the prompt a little bit. And this is part of prompt engineering, is to go back and be open to changing prompts a little bit. So in the previous section, it was not sure if it had the strategy for the following year is clear. So I had to look at the change to this the current year the report is from, and then also add a bit more information. But you can see now it's given us the strategies which it believes is important, and elimination of the, estimation of importance there as well. So till about last year, the most important strategy for them was cloud. As you can see that, now it's AI, so it's changed quite dramatically. But it shows also how different strategies can be. So you can actually not only enter this report, but you can also enter a newer version of the report, for example, or the current strategy based on their blog, and then ask to analyze how different the strategies are. Similarly, I can ask it about, like, um, what's the work Microsoft is doing in sustainability, and any information around it in the report should be presented in a tabular format. As I said, this is probably the most important strategy which I kind of recommend, is to put everything in table format so you can quickly see what's going on. One of the best features of ChatGPT, in my opinion, is the table format thing. You can copy paste that across, and it really helps you break it down. So So when it doesn't have the information, it will not be able to provide information in a tabular format. So we need to reprompt this thing up. And so based on what I received right now, I can reprompt this to change it. So let me reprompt it for us and then put that in. So I have changed the prompt a little bit to provide the commitments of sustainability in tabular format, any numbers to put in a separate thing. So Um, yeah, so it's given us the table that it wants. But again, there are a lot of bits in this info in here. We can ask it to, for example, summarize its cloud initiatives, its revenue, for example, and it can do that for us very quickly. So yeah, we'll try one more example from the annual revenue. So what I've done here is I've kind of asked it to summarize the financial reviews, and it's kind of given me, sort of simplify the table down. So much information available in the reports. What might be interesting, what might not be interesting. I just kind of made sure that it just kind of gives me the um, most important information here, and the changes, for example, the revenue from 2021. So you can see, um, you know, information here. So one thing I want to do is you can actually change it as well to make it, instead of making content information, making us more significant important information. Let me change that across as well. So you can get the most important highlight information in this table as well. So now I've prompted it such that kind of give me the most important information highlighted in a separate row. It's giving me a much more detailed number, for example. So, we can change stuff, for example, to kind of make the prompts to highlight information which is important to us, and to also make sure that what we create is giving us a representation of the most important data versus the least important data. You can prompt it to make sure that everything is provided in a table format, so it's a good summary. And we can also, for example, rank it or rate it based on the most important element to us. And that's the advantage of using a table overall and highlighting big chunk of information into a summarized way.